Merhaba arkadaşlar, ben Anıl Ceviz. Cevahir Üniversitesi'nde İngiliz Dili ve Edebiyatı bölümündeyim, birinci sınıfım. Bugün sizlere İngilizce'de dolaylı anlatım yani reported speech konusunu anlatmak istiyorum. Hadi başlayalım. Evet, reported speech. What is reported speech? Reported speech is also known as indirect speech, and it means dolaylı anlatım in Turkish. It is used when you're trying to tell someone what someone else said. You can use direct speech or indirect speech for this. Direct speech. I work in an office, said Betty. In indirect speech, it is Betty said that she worked in an office. If you're going to use indirect speech, the tense of the sentence goes one tense back. Just like the word work, changing to worked. In the example above, this is called backshift. Use of tenses in reported speech. We don't need to change the tense, though probably we do need to change the person from I to she, for example. We also may need to change words like my and your. But if the reporting verb is in the past tense, then usually we change the tenses in the reported speech. We change the tense of the direct speech into a past tense of it to make it a reported speech, so it is a backshift. You can see the tenses and their reported speech versions above. So, present simple turns into past simple, present continuous turns into past continuous, present perfect turns into past perfect, past simple turns into past simple or past perfect, past continuous turns into past continuous, so it stays the same, or it can be changed into past perfect continuous. And future simple changed into would. Here are some examples to make you understand better. She said, I work in a bank. She said that she worked in a bank. So in the first sentence, she says she works in a bank. So in the second sentence, we are telling that she works in a bank. So let's repeat it again. She said, I work in a bank. So she is telling this. And in the second sentence, we are telling it. She said she worked in a bank. So let's continue with the second example. She said John is sleeping. So she is saying this, but in the second sentence, we are telling this. She said John was sleeping. So as you can see, the tense of the first sentence goes one tense back in the second sentence. So it backshifts. In the third example, he said, I was reading the newspaper when you were at the door. To make it a reported speech, we have to say this. He said he had been reading the newspaper when I had been at the door. The fourth example is, they said we will call him later. They said they would call him later. So, as you can see, these are the direct speech versions and the indirect versions of it, of these examples. And indirect speech means reported speech. Note, you do not need to change the tense if the reporting verb is in the present or if the original statement was about something that is still true. For example, the teacher said, the sun rises from the east. So in the second sentence, we basically form the same sentence, but without quotes, because we are seeing it. The teacher said the sun rises from the east, because it's still true and it cannot be changed. Sun cannot rise from the west. The other example is this. Mom says dinner is ready. In the second sentence, we have to say this. Mom says dinner is ready, because it is in the present. The next page, we can see every tense and their changes. So, present simple version in direct speech is I like ice cream. A reported one is she said she liked ice cream. Present continuous. I am living in London. She said she was living in London. Past simple. I bought a car. She said she had bought a car. Or she said she bought a car. By the way, you don't have to say that. You can use it, but you don't have to. It's just a word to use if you want. In past continuous, let's continue with past continuous. I was walking along the street. She said she had been walking along the street. So let's continue with present perfect. I haven't seen Julie. She said she hadn't seen Julie. So all of these went one tense back. Let's continue with past perfect. It is different than the others in a way, because it doesn't change. I had taken English lessons before. She said she had taken English lessons before. So, will. I will see you later. She said she would see me later. So will turned into would. But would stays the same. I would help, but she said she would help, but blah blah blah. Let's continue with can. I can speak perfect English. She said she could speak perfect English. So could doesn't change to. So there's an example. I could swim when I was 4. She said she could swim when she was 4. Shall, it will turn into would. I shall come later. She said she would come later. Should and might doesn't change. So there are 4 sentences about those examples. I should call my mother. She said she should call her mother. So it stayed the same. Might. I might be late. She said she might be late. Must change, but not exactly. Must can be used as must or had to. It can be turned into had to. So let's see. I must study at the weekend. She said she must study at the weekend. Or she said she had to study at the weekend. So past perfect, would, could, should, and might doesn't change. Use of personal pronouns, possessive pronouns, and possessive adjectives. In reported speech, personal pronouns, possessive pronouns, and possessive adjectives don't stay the same as in direct speech. If someone says the I pronoun, you have to use the he or she pronoun. He said we will finish the project. He said they would finish the project. We pronoun changed into they. So we have examples. I said I have applied for a job. I said that I have applied for a job. We said we had trouble with the exam. We said that we had trouble with the exam. Tom said, my mother bought some apple from the market. Tom said his mother bought or had bought some apple from the market. Use of time expressions. No changes are made to words referring to place, time, or person if you report something at the same place, around the same time, or involving the same people. So we have examples. Vladimir, I'll meet you here. Vladimir said he would meet me here. But we're going to say this sentence if we report at the same place. Kara, my train leaves at 9:30 tomorrow. Kara says her train leaves at 9:30 tomorrow. It is reported on the same day. So if it was reported on the next day, we had to say at 9:30 today. Richard, I can help you, Stephanie. I told you I could help you. So this is reported by Richard to Stephanie. I told Stephanie I could help her. This is reported by Richard to a third person. Changes are made if there are changes in place, time, or people. Vladimir, I'll meet you here. Vladimir said he would meet me at the cafe, reported at a different place. Kara, my train leaves at 9:30 tomorrow. So to make this reported, Kara said her train leaves at 9:30 today, reported on the next day, as we talked before. Richard, I can help you, Stephanie. Richard told me he could help me. This is reported by Stephanie, as you can imagine. Richard told Stephanie he could help her. This is reported by a third person. I told Stephanie I could help her. This is reported by Richard to a third person. So these are the changes that we use to make a direct speech to a reported speech. These are the time expressions. Now changed into then, today or tonight, changed into that day, that night, tomorrow, the next day, the following day. Yesterday changed into the day before or the previous day. This turns into that. These days turns into those days. Last month or last changed the before. Let's read this with the example. Last month changes into the month before or the previous month. The next weekend changed to the weekend after or the following weekend. Use of ask and tell. Sometimes in reported speech, the words ask and tell can be used instead of say, but there are no changes in the tense of the sentence. Don't go. She told me not to go. So she tells us something and we are reporting it as she told me not to go. Close the window, please. He asked me to close the window because he is asking something from us in this first sentence. Close the window, please. He's asking us something. In the second sentence, we report it as he asked me to close the window. Use of modal verbs. Some modal verbs in reported speech also backshift, just like tenses do. After modal verbs, we can also use the perfect tense of the verbs. He said, I can speak French. He said he could speak French. We report can as could. She said he may call us. She said he might call them. So we report may as might. She said to him, you must finish your food. She said he had to finish his food. So we change must into had to make it a reported speech. So these are the modal verbs. And in the left, it is the direct versions, and in the right, we can see the reported speech versions of the modal verbs. Can is reported as could, may is reported as might, shall is reported as should, must is reported as must or had to, will is reported as would, needn't is reported as needn't or didn't need to or didn't have to. But there's an important thing that you have to remember. Some modal verbs do not change. Might, could, should, would, mustn't, need, ought. So those modal verbs do not change. Just do not forget about it. Reported questions. When we report questions, the subject comes before the verb. Where are you going? He asked me where I was going. So the subject came before the verb. Why is he shouting? He asked me why he was shouting. What do you want? She asked me what I wanted. So again, the subject came before the verb. When reporting questions, we don't use the auxiliary verb do, except in negative questions. For example, who doesn't like cheese? She asked me who didn't like cheese. So let's continue. We report yes and no questions with if or whether. For example, do you want me to come? I asked him if he wanted me to come. So we use if because it was a yes or no question. Let's see another example. Have you fed the dog? She asked me whether I had fed the dog. We used whether because It was a yes or no questions. It was a yes or no question. I'm sorry. When we report questions with who, what, or which plus to be plus object, the verb be can come before or after the object. So, who is the champion? She asked me who the champion was. Or, she asked me who was the champion. So, the verb be came before and after the object in those two examples. Let's continue with another example. What is your favorite color? She asked me what my favorite color was. So, verb be came after the object. So in the second sentence, in the second example, she asked me what was my favorite color. So in this sentence, be came before the object. So today we are going to end this topic, this lecture here. I hope I taught you everything about reported speech. These are the works cited. I'm going to list these sources that I used in the description below. You can check them out. And I hope you understood everything that I taught you, or at least I did a good job, I think, or I hope. So see you guys on the flip side. See you later.